Don't remember.
Yeah, last time. Yeah.
Yeah, Monday was there. Okay, so till last class we discussed like how to create a measure table, and then what we will do, we will have all the measures in at one place, right? And we created total returns, but we didn't discuss about that. I'll discuss about that today. Okay. So in the first measure that we created was order quantity, right? So order, what does order quantity means? Let me go to the sales table and show you. Okay. So under sales table, what all we have? We have order date, stock date, order number, product key, customer key, territory key, order line item, and order quantity, right? And this is something we have created, quantity type field we have created. Okay. So now, uh, if I'm calculating order quantity, meaning uh, what we want to see is how many total quantity was purchased, right? Now, since we are creating measure, it will vary depending on what filter we are pulling in the table, right? So if we change, instead of quantity type, if we change it to something else, let's say by customers, so this number will vary. The order quantity will change depending on which customer it is, right? Like how many quantity was purchased by each of the customer, that it will give me. And the total quantity that was purchased, how we will calculate? So we know that from this table, we know that it is daily level data, right? You see in the first row, first column, we have order date. That means somebody dropped. The first column is order date, right? Meaning on each date, how many orders was placed. Now, it might happen that you purchased, let's say one customer purchased on 7/5/2015, and same customer purchased on, this is 7th, uh, 5/7/2015, right? So this shows 5th July 2015, right? So it might happen that the same customer purchased on different date, right? Let's say 10th July 2015 or so. So if we want to see like how many total items was purchased, what we will do, we will do sum, right? Like let's say if 5 items was purchased on a particular date and 10 items is purchased on the other date. So if we want to see order quantity, so this order quantity is basically total order quantity, right? Like the total that was purchased. And that's why we have done sum here, right? Now, as soon as you write sum and open bracket, it will show you like what you have to pass. So let me do this once again. So if I write sum, what it says me, it tells that uh, in the bracket, put the column name. Column name meaning like which column you want to do summation, right? And I want to do summation on order quantity column. So that's why we wrote order quantity here. And if you write the column name, it will automatically come at the below. Like you don't need to write the entire thing. Even if you write like order or queue or something, only order. So it will start having all the columns starting with order. Let's say I write order. So you see all the columns starting with order will be here, and then you have to select. Now, we have discussed this earlier also. What does it signify? It signifies that the first AW sales is the table name, and under bracket we have column name, right? So inside the summation bracket, you have to write the column name, right? So what you can do, either you can write like this also, or you can Actually, instead of that, if let's say, okay, no, here you can't write only order quantity. Column name meaning like from which table the column is coming, right? So you will have to have the like this. Okay. AW sales order quantity. Don't modify anything. And this is the column name, order quantity coming from sales table. Hit enter and then it will be created. Order quantity will be created. Okay. So that is one. Now let's say I want to see uh, how how many returns happened right now. What is this? This system is very slow. Okay. Now I want to calculate a similar way. We have created order quantity. Let's say I want to calculate quantity returned, like how many total quantity we have returned. Okay. Uh, so what should be the formula? Let's say I want to create one column saying quantity returned. Oh, you don't have to pull column, you have to pull uh, measure instead of column. By mistake, I chose new column. You have to do new measure, right? Why new measure? Because we are doing aggregation, right? So first we will give the name of the measure, similar to how we created calculated column, right? So quantity returned is equal to. Now I want to write the total quantity returned. So can someone tell me like which column to pull and from where to pull? Can you guys try? Like I want to calculate a total quantity returned. How will I do that? Just look into these tables and see like from where can we calculate total quantity returned?
From the sales AW sales
Sales.
table.
Yeah.
From the AW sales table, what data we have under sales table?
Order custom. Quantity returned, right? So quantity
I want to
order.
look at. Mhm.
No, no, no.
So I want to look into total quantity returned. Sales table has information how many sales happened, right?
Okay.
If
AW returns.
correct. If you look into other tables, so each table has some purpose, right?
Yeah.
Calendar lookup will have all the information related to dates, calendar. Customer lookup will have all the information
Wait,
related to
Prashant.
customer. Product category is like which product belongs to, like product category belongs to category name. That is the combination we have here. Under product subcategory, we have subcategory list. Product lookup will have all the information related to each of the products that is there. Then we have territory lookup in which we have all the information related to territory.
Territories. Yeah.
Remaining two tables, which is fact table or data table we call as, we have sales table and returns table. Sales table will capture all the information regarding the sales that is happening. It will not capture returns, and the returns table will have all the information regarding returns that happened, right? So it will only have the return information. Let's say you ordered online 100 items and then out of those you returned 20 items, right? So those 100 will be captured under sales and those 20 will be captured under returns, like on which day the return happened, which product was returned, and from which territory it was returned. Is it clear?
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Okay. So now I want to calculate quantity returned, like total quantity returned. So what measure should I create? I have created quantity returned, but what formula should I write in quantity returned?
Open parenthesis that we open the bracket and then we have to write AW returns because we are fetching the data from AW returns.
Okay. AW
Mm,
returns, let's say. Okay. And then
mm, so
what exactly do you
is
want
that
to do? We
we
are
we, we
Mhm.
no continue.
No, I'm telling we are fetching data from AW returns. That is right. But what exactly, what um,
Or
function you want to apply to calculate quantity returned? If let's say I want, you have returned two quantity on a particular date, five quantity on another date, 10 quantity on another date, and I want to know like how many total quantity you have returned, what you will do?
mm,
2 plus 5 plus 10, right?
y-
Let's say somebody is returning one quantity. Let me show you this. Let me come here. Okay. So what does it captures? It captures return quantity. What return? So we have here from 2015 till 2017 data, right? What we are seeing on 18 January 2015, there was two returns happening. 21st January, there was one. 22nd January, there was one. Likewise, like on each date, some quantity has been returned, right? Now I want to know, like, I don't want to know like on which date this quantity was returned. I want to know like in the entire 2 years of 2 years of time or whatever time it is from 18 January 2015 till 30 June 2017, how many total quantity was returned? So then how you will calculate? So what you will do 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1, like you will sum, you will do addition of all these, and then you will give me one number that this is the total quantity returned, right? So that's what we need to do. If you want to calculate total quantity returned, how will you do that? You have a sum function. You want to do summation. You know that on 18 January 2015, one quantity was returned. On 21st January 2015, one quantity was returned. Similarly, you have on every day how many quantity was returned is mentioned in this return table. Now, if you want to know like how many total quantity was returned, how you will do that? You will add all the numbers in each row and then you will get to know like total quantity returned. So that's what we need to do. We need to do summation and then I want to do summation of which column, because under sum function there is one argument which shows column name, right? So which column you want to do aggregation? We will do aggregation on return quantity column because that is the column which captures all the returns data, like how many quantity was returned. So I will write return quantity here. And you see this is what we got. AW returns is the table name, return quantity is the column name, close parenthesis, enter. So what it will give me, let me go here, show you. As soon as I pull it here, what it is giving me,
the total of quantity returned.
total of quantity returned, right? Which is
Yes.
1828 in total. Let me, instead of multiple items, let me pull category name. Okay. So what does it show me? This number is different for each of these. Why? Because depending on the filter that we will apply here, this number will change, right? And that makes sense. Why? Because under accessories category, total quantity returned would be different than what we had returned under bikes and clothing, right? So what does it shows? It shows that accessories is the under category name accessories. We have total quantity ordered is 57,809, and out of which we returned 1130 items. Similarly, for bikes, we ordered one 13,929 and we returned 429. So that's why like each category will have different returns, right? Because each category is different. Is it clear?
Yes.
Yes, Neha.
Okay. So when to apply summation, right? It's simple maths. Like how do you do your households? Like how do you i- whenever you uh, order something online, right? Let's say that's a simple question I was asking. Let's say you ordered something on a particular date, and then after 10 days you again ordered something. And if somebody wants to know, like in a particular month, how many total orders you placed, right? So what you will do, you will add everything and then you will tell that in a particular month I ordered these many items, right? So addition means what? Addition means you are doing summation, right? So that is the formula, inbuilt formula, which is called sum over here. Sum, what does sum do? Sum will add everything. So under return quantity, how whatever number of rows we will have and the values, it will add values under each row and then give you one value, right? Let's say I remove category name from here. What it shows me? It shows that in total 1828 quantity was returned, right? I don't have any filter here. So what it is doing, it is showing me that in 2.5 years, like starting from 18 January 2019 till 30 July 2017, we have like almost 2.5 years of data. So in 2.5 years, the total quantity returned was 1828. Is it clear?
Yes.
Okay. And this number will change depending on whatever filter we apply. If we apply category name, it will be different. If we apply something else, subcategory name, it will be different. Let me apply subcategory name and show you. Sorry. Because subcategory is a lot, so that's why it's coming these many times, because we have multiple subcategory, right? Let's say I pull category first, and then we have category, and then we have subcategory, right? So what does it tells me? It tells me that under accessories category, we have three subcategories: bike racks, bike stands, and bottles and cages, all those. And then for each subcategory, these many total quantity that has been returned, right? Okay, so this is clear, right? Uh,
Yes, ma'am.
okay, now let me remove this. Okay, I will remove this, and then there's the third. So we have discussed order quantity and quantity return, right? Order quantity is basically summation of all the orders that were there which will give me total or the total quantity ordered. Then second is returns quantity returned, which will give me total quantity returned, right? Now, what happens is I want to calculate now. This is little bit different, and quantity returns and total returns. How these are different, I will tell you. Now let's say I want to know how many return transaction happens instead of how many quantity returned, right? Meaning I want to know the distinct. So let's say if I show you here under return quantity, right? We have one quantity also and two quantity also, right? So on a particular date, what happened? Let's say somebody did returned two quantity, right? Now I want to know, I don't want to add all the quantity, right? What I want to do, I want to know like how many return transactions happened. So in that case, what we will do, we will do the count. We will not do the sum, because sum will add 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2, all those things. I want to know how many return transaction happened. By return transactions, what I mean, like on 13th October, one transaction happened in which we returned two quantity, right? On 19th August, there was one transaction happened in which we returned two quantity, right? So unique transaction will be lesser, but total quantity returned would be more, right? So how to identify unique transaction? We can count those, right? So then we have one formula called under total returns. If you see, we have something called count. So what it will do, it will count the number of rows in the table. So that will tell me like how many transaction happened, right? How many rows are there? By rows, what does it signify? It signifies like how many transaction happened on each. Let's say on 18th January 2015, there are two transactions that happened. One from one for product key 310 and the other for product key 312. And in both the transactions, we returned one item, right? So that is how there is a difference between summation and count. Count will give you the number of rows, count of the number of rows, and sum will give you addition of the like the values inside a column, right? So that's how we have calculated total returns. This total returns is the number of transactions that happened, and this quantity returned is the total quantity that had been returned, right? So if I pull total returns over here, it will be little different from what we had here, right? Why? Because it is showing that the total transaction happened 267, but in 267 transaction, we have returned 269 items, right? So in few returns, we made returned multiple items, and that's why like the total quantity returned is higher than the total returns. Is it clear, or like are you guys getting confused? Is
No,
it
ma'am.
is it
It's
clear, Rekha?
yes, yes.
Yeah, but
Okay.
if you please say it again, about the
Okay.
category names and content name.
Okay, sure. No problem. Okay. So basically there are two things, right? Let's say, as I mentioned here, under return quantity, we have one and two. What does it mean? If I see one, that means on each particular date, right? There is one quantity. Let's say you are doing an online shopping, right? Let's say you want to order order something like household item. Okay, so let's say on 18 January 2015, there was one item, milk. Let's say I'm just giving an example so that you guys understand. Let's say on 18 January 2015, you ordered milk, only one packet milk. So that is on 18th January 2015, there is one item. Okay. You returned one packet milk. So that is one. Okay. Now, so this is one row item, one transaction that happened, and in that transaction, one product was returned, right? Similarly, we have other rows in which, let's say 13th October 2015, you placed a return in which, so this is one transaction. You did one transaction, but in that transaction, you returned two items, right? Along with milk, let's say you returned butter, right? Or something else. So you returned two quantity, okay? But the transaction is one. So if we want to know how many total transaction happened, right? So in that case, what I will do, I will count number of rows over here. So the number of rows will give me like the total transaction that happened. And if I want to know how many total quantity returned, then we will have to do summation. Why? Because in one transaction you returned only milk, and then in other transaction you returned milk and cheese or butter, right? So you returned two items. So total quantity returned is 3. You returned 2 packet of milk and 1 packet of butter. But total transaction that happened is 2, right? So that is the difference between these two measures that we have created. Quantity returned is telling me total quantity that had been returned, right? That will be summation of the return quantity column. And the total returns is the number of transactions that happened. So it is basically count of number of rows in that table. So that is the difference between these two. And total returns is smaller than quantity returned. Why? Because total returns signify the number of transaction. So that's why it's, let's say 267, but total quantity returned is 269, which means in some transaction you have returned multiple items, let's say 2 or 3, whatever. And that's why it's little higher when compared to total returns. Is it clear?
It's clear for me.
Good. Shanaz, clear for you?
Yes, Mia.
Okay. So similarly, if I want to calculate total orders, which means the total number of transactions that happened during orders, right? Let's say here under sales table, let me go under sales table. So what do we have here? We know that on a particular, each of these lines shows a single transaction. Like on 5th July 2015, there was one transaction that happened in which we ordered one item. Similarly, on the other date, 7th July 2015, we ordered one item, right? So these are each of the transaction, but it might have happened that we had ordered multiple items, right? 2 or 3, let's say this one. So these are the transactions in which we ordered multiple items, right? On 31st December 2016, we ordered 2 items. On some other date, we ordered, there will be some dates where we ordered 3 items, right? Let's say this one, right? 9th March 2017, we ordered 3 items, right? So if we want to count unique, like the total number of transactions that happened, so how we will calculate? Any, can you guys try? Let's say I want to calculate the total number of transactions that happened, like distinct, basically the unique number of orders that happened, transactions that happened, not the total quantity ordered. I don't want to know that you ordered, let's say 100 quantities. I want to know that how many transactions did you do. So what you will do? You will basically count each of the rows over here, right? So that's what I'm doing. Let me create a new measure. And I'm writing total orders. And what I want to do, I can do two ways. I can do, let's say, count of order quantity, right? So what it gives me, let me, so how many unique orders we had, like unique transactions happened, 56,046. There's something called, if you see in the data, there's something called order number also, right? What does it signify? It signifies that we have we have different order, like each of these are different orders, right? So using this also we can calculate the total orders, right? Let me actually do one thing. Let me filter this and see. Okay. Just trying one thing. Let's say I filter out multiple items and I look into one of the orders over here. Okay. So what does it signify? So if you see under multiple items, you have same order number twice, right? What does it tells me? It tells me that like this order number, it has, you have ordered line item over here, right? So meaning in the first order, you had like this order number S051178, you ordered two quantity and that is being distinguished by the ordered line item. Okay, so this line item will tell uh, is distinguishing actually, like because the same in the same like how the data is getting captured under sales table, I'll tell you. So under sales table, what all we have order date, stock date, order number, product key, customer key, territory key, order line item, order quantity, and quantity type, right? Now what does it signify? Order date signifies on which particular date order had been placed, right? So it's 1st July 2016. Then we have stock date, on which date a particular product had been stocked, right? Let's say this product key 477 was stocked on 26th March 2003. Stocked meaning they brought it from somewhere and stocked it in their inventory or so. Then on 2nd June 2003, this product was stocked. So that is what we have it here, right? Then we have order number. So whenever you order something, you get the bill on which there is some order number written, right? So that is the order number over here, S051178, right? This is the product key, like which product was ordered, right? So we have on the same date we had ordered multiple products. So that's why we have two line item over here, right? Why? Because the first product we ordered is 477, the second product we ordered is 478. And since this data is having that product key column, so that's why the each of the product is mentioned in the different line item, right? So the first line tells me that 477 product 477 product key 477 was ordered, and the second line item shows us product key 478 was ordered, right? Under customer key, this shows like which customer had ordered, right? So this is the key of the customer. Territory key meaning like which on which territory it in which territory it was ordered, right? And order line item meaning this 477 key, right? We have multiple line for multiple items, right? So that is what, like for multiple items, we have multiple lines in single order. If you see, we have single order, right? S051178, but we have two products that we ordered, and each of the product we ordered has two quantity, right? I ordered, let's say, milk with two quantity, and butter with two quantities. So that's why we have 477 in the first row, signifying milk, let's say, and then butter in signifying butter in the second row. That's why we have two rows over here, and for each individual product we have ordered two quantity. So that's why under order quantity it's two. Order line item meaning like if there is multiple items under one order number, this line item will define it will assign unique values in each of the rows. So don't worry about the order line item. This is just to have like different rows under same order number if there is multiple item. So don't worry about that. So what happens if I want to know individual transactions that happened, right? So what we need to do, if I look into order number, right, like individual orders, then then we can say that these many total transactions that happened, right? Because in every transaction, the total, there will be one order number generated, right? If you go to any shop or anything, if somebody asks or if you order something, they give you a bill and which has order number, right? So if we look into the order number and if I see the distinct order number from here, it will give me like how many total transactions that happened, right? Total orders that happened. Okay. So what we can do is we can, under total orders, instead of doing count of this thing, or let it be there, I will create one more measure saying total orders 2, and then I will have, there is some function called distinct count. What does it do? It will count the number of distinct values in a column. Just a moment. Hold on. Yeah. So what does distinct count do? Distinct count, if you see, it count the number of distinct values in a column, right? So I know there is one column which has order number, right? So if I calculate distinct count of the order number, it will give me like the total number of transactions that happened, right? So that's what we are doing. We calculated distinct count of the order numbers. And then if I go here, right? Don't worry about this total orders. This total orders is something different. I will actually delete this. That is different because the way the table is designed, it will give me wrong result. Like if I do count of order quantity, it will give me different result, because if I do count of order quantity, it will count these two rows as one transaction, right? But that is not the case, because we have here one, under one order number we have multiple line items over here. So that's why we can't do it like that. We have to use this order number field to calculate total number of transactions that is happening, right? So let me remove this. I will summarize everything. Just give me one moment. So basically what all we have done today, right? We have not applied any, if you see, we have not applied any functions that is very difficult, right? What all we have applied, the first one we calculated is summation. We use summation which aggregates or sums all the values in a column, right? Similarly, under quantity return, we did the same thing. Then under total orders, we used distinct count, and under total returns, we used count. What does distinct count does? Distinct count will give me distinct values in a particular column. And what does count will do? Count will count all the rows in the table, right? So basically, what is the difference between distinct count and count? If the values are repeating under a particular column, it will, distinct count will count that as one, right? Let let me actually show you something over here. Don't worry about that. I just want to show you this. Okay. So basically there is, if you see under quantity return, we have 1, 1, 2, 2, right? And then let's say we have order number, and order number is, or instead of order number, let it be what we have here. If I want to know here under quantity returned, how many distinct values are there, right? So how many distinct values we have? We have 1 and 2. That's it, right? So we have 2 distinct values over here. But if I tell you how many total rows are there, so how you will do, you will count the number of rows, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So if I want to count the number of rows in a table, then what we will do, we will apply count function, which will give me 1, 2, 3, 4 number of rows, count of rows, right? But if I want to know, like under this column, how many unique count we have, unique values we have. So how we will do, we will do distinct count of quantity returned, which means we have 2 distinct values in this. So that is the difference between count function and distinct count. Count will give you the total number of rows count, but distinct count will give you the count of rows which has distinct value, right? So that is the difference between those two. So count of, if I write, let's say, so at the top, if you see, I have written few things. Let's say I write count of quantity returned. Okay. So what value it will give me? You guys tell me. Distinct count of quantity returned. So what value it will give me? If I do count of quantity returned column, what value it will give me? How many number of rows it will give me as an output?
4.
Yes, because it will count the number of rows under quantity returned. But if I do distinct count, how many rows it will give me?
2
I think it's
rows.
4.
4.
You guys decide what will be the answer. Becca?
I go with 4.
Okay, why 4?
Because like every row are different.
How come every row are different?
Oh, you went for the quantity return? Okay.
So that's how we mention in the measure also,
Oh, okay,
right?
okay.
The first is the
Yeah.
function and second is the column name, right?
Okay.
So under quantity returned, we want to see how many distinct count of rows we have. So what will be the answer?
6.
No,
Oh,
why it will be 6?
so it's not the sum. Okay, okay, now.
Yeah, don't look at the top, otherwise you will
Yeah,
get
yeah, yeah, yeah.
confused.
I
That
was
is
seeing
the
the
thing.
sum over there. Yeah.
Yeah. You whatever, so everything is different. That's why I asked you different question, right? I want to
Yeah.
know distinct count of quantity return. Basically, how many unique values do we have under quantity return? Distinct count meaning what?
It's 2.
Like it's 2. Yes. Because distinct count, Shahnaz had told me at the start only 2, but I hold it because I wanted to know from you, because I heard Becca you saying 4. That's why. So
Okay.
what does count means?
I got
Count will,
confused because
yeah, don't worry. So count meaning it will count the number of rows. Distinct count meaning it will count the number of rows with unique values, and sum what it will do, sum will add everything that is inside one column. So that's why if we do sum function under quantity return, what it will give me? It will give me 1 plus 1 plus 2 plus 2, which is 6. So that's how these three functions are different. Is it clear now?
Yes.
So
Yes, ma'am.
that is the three functions that we have looked into today. So those are the three functions. The first is summation. So what does it will do? It will do the summation of all the values inside quantity column, right? Similarly, under returns, it will do summation of all the values under return quantity column, right? Then we have total orders. We have applied distinct count under order number. What it will give me? Distinct values under order number. It will count those and then it will give me value. So that is the total orders. So the total unique orders that happened, the which we call as the number of transactions that happened, is 25,164. And total returns is count of return quantity. What does this shows? The total number of rows in a in that table. How many total rows is present in the return table, which is the total number of transactions that happened, which is 1809. So if you see, if you want to read this table, what does it mean? It tells me, if you see the total row tells, in total we had ordered 84,174 quantity, out of which 25,164 transactions or orders were unique. Similarly, we had returned total 1828 quantity, and we had unique transactions, which was 1809. Meaning in in a particular transaction there could have been multiple items returned, and that's why we have the total number of total returns, which is like total number of transactions that happened is 1809, but total quantity returned is 1828, right? And the total number of transactions for orders happened is 25,164, but total quantity that has been ordered is 84,174, meaning in one order there might have multiple items that was ordered, and that's why this number is lower than the order quantity. Are you guys confused, or like, is it fine? Doubts how these
I
numbers are
don't.
different?
For me, I don't have any doubts till now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Shahnaz?
No, no, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, very nice. So basically, you see, like, how does, like, the main and the important part is to understand the data. You will write this function, summation function, you know, it will do summation, count function, you know, like it will do count, distinct, all those. But how the data is captured, what does each of these column means, right? And then once you understand the data, then you will able to create measure or calculated column. And once you create measure or calculated column, then it's very easy to basically create any of the chart, right? Why? Because you have all the data, you just have to, creating chart is very easy. See, if I change that to chart, something will come, right? Because below is category, line chart, and all those. We will discuss it later. But my point is, creating visualization is very easy. By easy, I mean that if you have all the data and everything, you just have to decide like which particular chart will be easier to visualize, or which is the best chart to visualize the data. But the main part is the modeling part, wherein you create models basis on the primary key and foreign key. And the second main part is to understand the data that you have in a particular table, right? So here, how many tables we have? We have in total 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 tables, right? So you need to understand like what kind of data is inside each of the table, and then only it will be like not for this exercise that we are doing, for any dashboard you are creating, try to understand the data that is out there. If you understand that, then it will be easier to create all these things, because the number of measures that we have is very less, right? Like the functions for measures is less, and that you will be able to remember, and you will be able to do that, right? So let me go to the sorry, I just want to, where are those functions? I had created few. Yeah, this one, right? So these are the few functions that we have, right? We have summation, which evaluates sum of a column. Then similarly, we have average function, returns the average of all the numbers in a column. So in a similar way, as we created summation, let's create one column which is using average, right? So let me create one average retail price. Okay. Average retail price. First, you will write the name of the measure. Okay. And then you will have to write the function name. So you know that you have to create average. So that's why I took average and then open parenthesis. And what does it tells me? It tells me returns the average of all the numbers in a column. And then the argument that you have to pass is the column name. So I want to do average of the retail price. So I will pull the column which is having the price, right? And so in this case, you need to know like which column from which table and all those things, right? So the price of a product is captured in product column, product lookup, right? So we will pull product price, right? Close parenthesis. Even if you don't know like which column, right, like which table, etc., you just have to write like the price or something. It will start popping up at the below. So you will get to know, okay, we have product price in this table, and then from there we can actually pull it. So then this is the average retail price, right? Uh, Let me pull this average retail price over here. This is how it looks. Okay. So what does average do? Let me go here and show you. We have a product lookup table, right? And we have product price in here. If you see, we have product price, right? So what average will do? Average will, where it went? Yeah, average will do average of all the product price that is out there in the column. So now, do you guys know like what is average? Average is basically sum. So what function, what is average? Let me actually write it here. If I want to calculate, let's say average of quantity returned, what it will give me? Average of quantity returned. So basically how average works is it will do sum of all the rows, values in all the rows. So basically, which is 6, 1 plus 1 plus 2 plus 2, which is 6, divided by the number of rows that is out there. So we have 4 number of rows over here. So 6 by 4. Okay. So basically 1.5, right? 6 by 4 is 1.5. So if I do average of quantity returned, it will return me 1.5. How? So average function is basically, what is average function? It will do summation of all the rows divided by number of rows. That is the average. In mathematics also, the formula of average is this. If you do average, that means you have to sum all the rows divided by number of rows, right? So that's the same thing it is doing here. If I am doing average of product price, what it is doing, it is summing all the values in each of the row divided by the number of rows that is out there. I see that there's 293 rows, right? So it will sum all the values inside each of the rows divided by 293 number of rows, and whatever value will come is this one, 714.44. And this is different for different category. Why? Because we have different categories under, we have different categories in the table, right? Under products. So for accessories, we have different retail price. How it is calculated? So it will look into the accessories rows, sum all the price, and then divide by the number of rows that belongs to accessories. And that's why it's different for each of the rows, right? So that is the function, which is average, inbuilt function, and you can directly use average of any particular column. Any question?
No, it's clear.
No.
Okay. So then let me go here. Where is this? Yeah. So we have discussed sum of the column, average. Then we have max and min. Okay, so max, what does it do? It returns the largest value in a column, and minimum will returns the smallest value in the column, right? So this is again similar to, we will not create any measure right now, but let's say if I will just give you example over here, whatever we have, just for you guys to understand. Let's say I do max of quantity returned, it will give me max of quantity returned. What value it will give me? Can somebody tell? And then we have min of quantity returned. Can somebody tell what will be the output of each of these?
It's like
Max
one
quant
in the two.
Sorry.
I mean, the minimum is going to be one,
Yes.
and for the maximum, it's going to be two.
Okay. Shanaz.
Yeah, this I'll go with the max quantity return 2, yeah.
Yeah.
Minimum quantity 1.
Okay, got it. Yeah, so you guys are clear here. So that is how, like, the it will look into the maximum value in a particular column and will return the value over there. And the minimum, again, the minimum lowest, if let's say I have 3 over here in this column, so then max would be 3 and min would be 1. Okay.
Yeah.
So we have covered some average, max, min, and then something is called divide. Okay, so we will let me create one measure for divide. Let's say I want to know return rate. So return rate is basically quantity returned divided by quantity sold, right? How many total you have purchased, and out of that, how many you returned. So that is return rate. Okay, that formula anybody will give you. You don't need to worry about all these, right? If let's say somebody asks you return rate, uh, you will have to ask like, what is the formula that I will apply? So don't worry about the formula. It will vary depending on what dashboard you are creating, right? For this dashboard, I know that return rate will be quantity returned divided by quantity sold, right? So what I will do, I will, two ways you can do, right? Either you can directly write quantity returned divided by quantity ordered, right? So order quantity. Either you can create like this, right? So that way you will have return rate. Let me pull it here. That way you will have return rate. Okay. And the other way you can do is there is a function called divide. So instead of divide, dash, what you can do, you can write divide over here. Divide. There is a function. So what does it do? It will divide function with ability. Okay, don't worry about this. It will divide basically numerator and denominator. So you have to give the first numerator and then comma denominator. So you can have like both ways. It will give you same result. So let's say I do this. See, the numbers are same. So that way you can create a division. So division is also a function. Either you can use this function or you can directly divide it. Both ways it will work. So that is one of the measures that is out there, right? Which is divide. Then we have something called count, counted, distinct count, and count rows. We have used count and distinct count. I will talk about all these four. So what does count function does? Count will count the number of cells in a column. So that let me actually pull this down. Yeah, so it's easier to explain from here. So count is the count the number of cells in a column that contains number, right? So that is what we used here. Count of quantity returned is 4. It counted the number of rows that is there in quantity returned column, right? Second is count A. Count A counts the number of non-empty cells in a column. Let's say you have, let's say there is, uh, let's say there is another product, another order ID. Let's say E. And we don't have any information about that. Quantity returned is blank. Okay. I don't have anything about that. So if I do count and then count A, so in this case, if I do count of quantity returned, it will give me 5. Why? Because the number of rows that is there, the number of rows that is there in this table is 5, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Fifth row is blank. So under count quantity returned, it will give me 5. But if I do count A quantity returned, it will give me 4. Why? Because it count A function counts only those rows in which we have values, right? So that is the difference between count and count A function. Count A function counts the rows which contains values, and it doesn't count the blank rows, right? But count function counts all the rows that is there. So that is the difference between count and count A. Okay, so that's what it is written. Count A counts the number of non-empty cells in a column, and count the number of cells in a column that contains numbers, right? Then we have distinct count. Count the number of distinct or unique values in a column, right? So distinct count will give me 2. That is the distinct, right? And then we have count rows. Count rows counts the number of rows in a specified table. So again, count rows, there's another function called count rows, which will count the number of rows here. So it will be 5. So basically under count, there are four formulas that is out there. That's it. What all we have: count, count A, count rows, distinct count. Count will count the number of rows that is out there. Count A will count only the rows where we have values. Count rows again will count the number of rows that is out there. So you can use either count or count rows. Both will give you same result, right? And then distinct count is it will count the number of unique rows that is out there, right? So we have 1, 2. I'm not sure it will be 2 or 3 because there is one blank rows also. So I need to check this, but basically distinct count will count unique rows that is out there. It can be 2 or 3. I'll check this. Not very sure. It will count the the empty cells also or not, but that is what is the difference between these four. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay, so I think we have covered most of the basic like most of the measures, the functions that we use. So these are the most used function in the any of the dashboard: summation, average, count, distinct count, divide, max, min. If you know these and you know basically where to apply these, that is important, right? Once you are aware about that, then we are good. Okay. So uh, we have discussed most of these. What we will do tomorrow is I have few questions over here. I have created few questions in which I have few questions for calculated column, what we discussed, how to create calculated column, and few questions I have for measures, like how to create measure, whatever we discussed today. We will discuss those questions and like how to create, like I will ask you guys and then you guys can also try, and then we will discuss those. So in that way, like we have covered actually the calculated columns and measures. That would be a refresher tomorrow, in which we will discuss few of the questions, that so that like you don't forget like what we did in calculated column. So we will just refresh it once using 2-3 questions, and then once that is done, then we will there is few more, I think, measures I will see, and then mostly in one class tomorrow or day after tomorrow maximum, all the calculations part will be done, and then we will move to the visualization, which will be our last. Basically, we have covered model view, we have covered data view, and then mostly we will talk about the report view, like how to create a report. So that will be the most awaited thing visually. So basically when we create dashboard, that is the end result that we want to achieve, right? So that we will discuss either day after tomorrow or maybe like after one or two classes. Mostly we will be able to start the visualization. So we will have all the data. We have almost like 95% of data that we have created. Remaining we will discuss in one or two class, and then we will do the visualization. Okay, any
Okay.
questions in today's class? Anything you want
No,
to
ma'am.
cover?
No.
Okay. Okay, guys, then for today we are good. We will connect tomorrow.
Okay.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good.
Bye.
Bye bye. Have a nice day.
Yeah, you too.